Just yesterday night, an important announcement came from the Iranians. And that announcement was to the effect that Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was going to proceed on a series of diplomatic trips to the capitals of 3 countries. The countries in order are Pakistan, Oman, and Russia, particularly their capitals, Islamabad, Muscat, and Moscow, in order. Immediately that announcement came up, the Americans immediately triggered. And what was the trigger? The White House sent out a tweet announcing that the Iranians have contacted us. That is the White House, the Americans speaking officially. The Iranians have contacted us. They are ready for negotiations now. They want to talk to us. In fact, they are ready to involve in direct negotiations with us, face to face, as against the indirect negotiations that the Iranians used to prefer. And as a result, America was immediately going to put Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner on a plane en route Islamabad to go and meet with Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi of Iran to engage in direct negotiations. In fact, the White House, President Trump, also announced that they will be putting Vice President J.D. Vance on notice to travel to Pakistan at short notice so that if there is more negotiation room, it can proceed with the negotiations on behalf of the US of A and actually seal the deal and stamp a successful negotiation with Iran. However, the Iranians immediately fired back. Even before Foreign Minister Araghchi took off from Tehran, what did they say? They said that we are not talking to the Americans at all. We did not request, solicit, or beg for any negotiations with the Americans at all. Not to talk of actually, asking for or begging for direct negotiations. That the discussion that Foreign Minister Araghchi is going to Pakistan, to Islamabad to do, is restricted only to the Pakistanis and not to the Americans or any American official at all. And in fact, don't forget that the United States of America is by far further to Islamabad in Pakistan compared to Iran, which is by far closer to Islamabad, Pakistan. So the Iranians actually said, even if the American delegation took off that very yesterday night from the US of A, by the time they are landing in Islamabad, Foreign Minister Araghchi of Iran will have taken off from Islamabad on to the next capital, most likely Muscat in Oman. Again, remember that it's a three-way trip for the Iranians, while it's a one-way trip for the Americans. What did that scenario, that incident suggest? Remember that yesterday, I was telling you that the Americans have become unusually generous with ceasefires, even giving ceasefires when they are not asked for, giving ceasefires when they are not merited, and even giving ceasefires when the adversary is behaving exactly in a way as to not deserve the ceasefire. Now, I have now noticed that the Americans are not just generous in terms of giving ceasefires. They are now super generous in terms of doling out opportunities for investigate, as in for negotiations, when those negotiations are not even requested or asked for. Araghchi is taking off from Tehran. He wants to go and see the Pakistanis, particularly the Iranian media said it is essentially a reciprocatory visit, or the visit that Field Marshal Hassan Munir of Pakistan and the Prime Minister Sharif of Pakistan made to Iran and Tehran a few days ago. The Iranians said Araghchi is just going to talk to the Pakistanis, say thank you to them, and advance negotiations bilateral with the Pakistanis alone. And then the Americans are starting to scrabble immediately, rushing Witkoff and Jared Kushner to, an Islamabad where the Iranians will not even be waiting for them, are not ready to talk to them at all, not to talk of involving in direct negotiations that the Americans said. It is a clearing sign of weakness. It means that after having been forced to stop the war for a ceasefire after 38, 40 days, having lost that phase of the hot war, the kinetic war, the Americans are also now starting to lose, face in the diplomatic phase of the war. It tells a lot of stories, and there are a lot of implications for that into the future. So that is about what happened on the American front, yesterday, between yesterday and this time. Let's quickly move to Israel. In Israel, the scenario still remains the same. It's an official ceasefire, but nobody is seizing of the two belligerents between Israel and the Lebanese resistance, and both sides are firing at one another, gradually increasing the numbers of the unalived and the wounded on both sides. It may not be equal, but it is not 100 0 in favor of either side. Meanwhile, yesterday, the Prime Minister Netanyahu put out a number of press statements. Some of them to the effect that he just survived the prostate cancer. So he said that he underwent surgery, underwent radiotherapy, and had actually frequented, the doctors and the surgeons quite a number of times in the lead up to this war. He also very importantly stated that the reason why they did not put out, this notice, inform the world of his predicament, of his health issues, which according to him he has now completely survived, and his doctors and surgeons are now giving him a clean bill of health. He said that the reason why he did not tell the world earlier was so that the Iranians would not take advantage of his health challenges to actually win a kind of propaganda war, if you must say. I'm not particularly sure how many people in the world, especially in the pro-Iranian, pro-resistance world, that are particularly wishing Prime Minister Netanyahu very well at this time. That is by the way. Let us quickly move to Iran too. In Iran, things are looking good. Things are looking so good that again the Iranians have continued to do their nightly carnivals. I don't call them rallies anymore now. I call them carnivals. While the pink versus blue, play held rivalry between men and women continues to be in top gear. Again, after the demise of the American and particularly Emirati radars, radomes, and other sat-nav equipment, Iran is now blooming. Iran is now green. Iran is now wet. Iran is now cold. There is now a lot more water than there used to be in the past 10 years, in the past 1 decade, than, than it is now. They have a lot more water now. Don't forget that Iran is an agricultural powerhouse. Iran is a country that prides itself in being self-sufficient in terms of agriculture and in terms of food production. Iran is so independent in terms of agriculture that when those other GCC countries ganged up to blockade Qatar, sometimes in the early 2000s, I think it's like 2015, 2017, if I remember very well, Iran was one of the two countries that actually practically solely powered, Qatar's food security. It was Iran and Turkey then. Virtually all the food, almost all the food that the Qataris used to eat back then, used to come in via imports, via essentially the only road transit via Saudi Arabia. Saudi cut that road access. It was in the middle of Ramadan. So what did Iran do? Iran and Turkey powered them, Qatar back into food production. So with the increase in the levels of water in the aquifers and reservoirs in Iran, and the increased groundwater because of the deluge of rain, Iran is now doing by far better and has better prospects in terms of agriculture. I'm sure that they don't want them, those American, Israeli, and UAE raiders to come back to life. You know the implication. They don't want their country to go back to dryness and the aridity. So that is about some of the updates that have happened between yesterday and today on the Iran versus America on Israel front. I hope you enjoyed it. So again, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to toggle the notification button on Facebook so that you can continue to access our geopolitical content. Thank you very much. Have a very good day.